Okay, so really quick, today's agenda. Alex and I work at Belli. We're going to tell you a story about food in Paris and what it taught us about AI. Then Philip Thomas from the OCBC is going to walk you through some of the things that he's been doing with his engineering teams. And then Giovanni on relay. And then finally, at the end, we'll have a small announcement. And then hopefully at the end, you'll get a chance to network. Feel free to at any time enjoy the food. Bathrooms are in the back. There's no Wi-Fi, unfortunately. Next. Really quickly, let's actually give a round of applause for OCBC, who has generously provided all the refreshments and the food for today. Thank you, OCBC. And also our friends at Vercel have also donated credits, as well as the Singapore Global Network was next. Okay, so really quickly, a little story time. We're going to teach you a little bit about poop in Paris and what it has taught us about AI. So quickly next. So really quick history lesson. In the early 1800s, 1 out of every 32 people that lived in Paris died of a disease called cholera. Cholera is a disease that is basically spread when there's poop in the water. And so Napoleon actually hired this guy named George Houseman. He was appointed to basically run the public infrastructure, to solve this problem. So he was an urban planner, and basically what he did was he rebuilt all of the underground infrastructure. For the first time, there were pipes underground. It was the first time ever that they had separated clean water from dirty water. Next, he built aqueducts as well. These are still in France today that carry clean water from outside the city of Paris. And he also built in gas pipes that allowed all the lights to light up, which is actually where Paris has its nickname today, the City of Lights. And in fact, once they fixed a lot of the plumbing infrastructure, suddenly Paris grew really quickly. And in fact, 60% of the buildings that are in Paris today were built during this small period of time during the George Houseman era. So there's a lot of parallels with software engineering. Once you clean up your plumbing, good things can happen. It allows you to build really quick. Next. And so today we're going to talk about the unsexy bits. Everybody likes to talk about vibe coding. Everybody likes to talk about all the fun stuff that you can do with AI. We're going to talk about the very unsexy parts. And a lot of this is basically how you build infrastructure context and also people. And those two things are actually what we spend the most time doing when we think about building AI for our engineering. Next. So quick context about us, about Belli. We basically build air cargo software for airlines like Lion Air. Next. And we do something called forward deployed engineering, which is where we take our engineering team when we were basically on site at the airport. We are basically working and we're trying to figure out how to make cargo more efficient. So we're in warehouses a lot. And we copy a lot of our full deploying engineering firm Palantir. We're part of their startup fellowship. Basically, they were the ones that coined the term. There was a lot that we learned from, specifically on the way that they built their infrastructure. They spent a lot of time building in a lot of libraries that they could just plug and play because their engineers were they were not in an office. They were on site with customers, with the military, with airlines. And when you're on site, you basically have a very small time window where you have to get things done, you have to deploy. And so they spent a lot of time on their plumber. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is my co-founder, Axe.
Hey everyone. Hi everyone. I'm Alex. Jeff gave lots of context about what we do. A lot of what we do, we spend in enterprise or very legacy-laden environments. So we unfortunately have to work with loads of legacy systems. But we're going to talk you through some of the things that we do internally to build context for our AI agents. So here's the counterintuitive part. A lot of our prompting internally is actually incredibly lazy. If we could next slide again. A- and a lot of this is enabled because the AI agents that we use often already have a lot of context about the work that we do. And the way that we set it up is something you call vaults, but they're essentially just giant repos with like loads and loads of markdown files. Yeah, next. We have something called a cargo knowledge base. And the reason this is important to us is because we work, again, in really legacy-laden environments. So there's a lot of like niche cargo context that sits in people's brains. When you speak to some folks from cargo, there's this like really specific process around like how to handle dangerous goods, or like the specific requirement for a customs clearance for a specific item. And that's not context that comes really easily. First of all, it's not context that's easily available on the internet. And second, it's usually context that's stuck in people's heads. So a lot of what we do is we spend time getting that out of people's heads, and then over time documenting that and building a cargo knowledge base. So yeah, these are some examples. Next slide. So the difference here is that this isn't very, if you notice, it's actually remarkably simple, and it's not very different from how engineers did documentation back in the day, right? Like when your seniors gave you like stacks and stacks of documentation that you have to read through. It's actually not different from that. But the difference is that instead of optimizing it for humans to read, we actually spend a lot of time now optimizing it for agents to read. So again, like everything that every single project that we go through, every single thing that we learn about cargo over time, we put into here. And we also have internal processes and different agents that write back into this constantly. So what this means is that we continuously build on like a rich bit of our knowledge. Next slide. So really simple setup stuff. If you're interested, we've got like a pod MD file or like an HNX.md file that sits in both the front end and back end repos. And the reason why this is important is because when multiple devs work on the same level, it sort of naturally inherits all the instructions that we want in specific standard that we want for our code base. Next. And the cool thing that's happened over the last 4 months for X is we're actually starting to see a lot of non-technical folks start committing code, right? And it sounds really scary at first when you've never done it, but increasingly we've become more and more comfortable with this because over time, as the cargo context gets better and the models get better, we get more and more confident about the ability for this to happen. Right? Obviously, there's still a human or loop at any given time, but like this gives us the ability to raise the floor by non-technical folks. So we're seeing a lot of new joiners. Within 2 hours of joining, they make like an optimization to a website. They make an optimization to, hey, I want to like use this thing by a couple of bases, but I will study it better. But what this means is like going forward, it's like we expect more and more of this to impact. So yeah, I think we don't spend a lot of time giving our AI agents not an engineering specific context. So oftentimes, if you look online, there's a bunch of like generic sort of comps and like generic core.me recommendations that okay. We actually the counterintuitive thing that we believe in is that you actually shouldn't index to these things at all because the models will understand software better than you and I combined, and everybody in this room combined in ever will, right? Because engineering best practices are engineering best practices, and those don't really change, and they sort of remain the same over time. But we continue to trust the models to understand these things. So about maybe 1 billion people in the world understand engineering, but and as you go down the chain, there's maybe about 1 million people that understand anything about aviation at all, and maybe that in aviation there's something called EDI messaging, and maybe only 1,000 people are real experts in that. And then as we sort of like get into like the cargo management software piece of things, you'll be a few hundred people, etc. So you want to start indexing, especially for founders in this room. You want to start indexing for stuff on the right side of this chart, right? And what that means is you want to index bookings that are really, really niche to your industry, really, really niche to really niche to your team's business advantage. So you don't spend time like giving it, hey, I want you to write in this specific format, whatever. We don't spend time doing that at all. Or we spend all our time in understanding what carbon approach that we can give to the agents. An example of how all this comes together is that we actually have an internal agent we call Kosuki. He's named after one of our Japanese interns back in the day. And the reason why is because Kosuki was in charge of our data. And now agent conversations actually dominate most of our Slack conversations. Most people are just talking to the agents Slack instead of each other. Because the way that we've done it is we'll just set up agents with all this context, with all this knowledge, and we'll partition it, we give it really good security guidance. And what this means is it's kind of quite a powerful tool internally for new joiners, for folks trying to debug and tend to understand like a different business units like products. And this has become incredibly helpful. Notes. Yeah, if anyone's interested. Even makes charts, which means I don't have to make charts when someone asks me for charts. Based. Another thing that's come up a lot that I think, especially on the non-tech side, work has become really powerful. We can everything in the business ethical work. If you use OpenAI, it go Gemini. But the key here is connecting, giving the agents tooling and connecting it to all different things. So maybe just a little bit of insight into the way that we work. A lot of what we do now is whenever we're on site with the company or whenever we're on site with an airline, like we actually spend the first few hours not writing code, not thinking about tech whatsoever. And we actually just spend the first 4 hours building offline on their top of us. So this Palantir calls it ontology, but what it is a fancy data map of so there is this is a simple mirror board, and what we spend during is we start knocking out all the data processes, and every single point at which the data goes out of the system and goes into a spreadsheet somewhere, goes into someone's brain somewhere, and we again all this is just in efforts to build context for agents. We even start taking photos, sticky photos of people in the spaces. So if you see Jeff around people that he's probably indexing a face and we're not. But we do this because this accelerates context from usual, right? Or for people who are not covered with project. Because oftentimes with devs and tech full, we're not the people who start the project are never the people who finish the project. I think other just really neat recommendations is create a design system. One of the things we always struggle with is the different airlines that we work with always want different designs. They always want their own branding. They always want their own colors. So design system means help us spin it up for it, like Garuda or spin up, right? That's pretty straightforward. Another one of the things we do is we use time migrating data. This is actually a recommendation for Congress enterprise price companies. That every time data migration comes up, there's probably it's made in some both spaces. You actually spend a lot of our time also building in infrastructure and data pipeline to move data out of old systems. The other tip is to own the cybersecurity and AI framework. So especially for startups, a lot of legacy companies, banks, airlines, they won't have their own AI security guidance or frameworks in place yet because it's so early. And oftentimes what we do is we just recommend that you use ours. So have that ready and already have that at hand. So whenever you speak with your clients, that's something that's ready. Next. Yeah. That's it.
Hey, Ada, do you mind flashing the first slide, the group chat? But for anybody who showed up late, we're just gonna quickly flash this. There's a group WhatsApp. We'll drop in photos, videos. We'll also drop in the slides as well. It might be a little bit hard to read where you're sitting. But if you want to access some of the presentations later today, if you want, just go onto your WhatsApp camera. With the WhatsApp camera. All right. How does it? What about it? So Alex talked a lot about how we build context-specific agents, and that I actually want to chat with you about is AI operating system, not people. So what that means is not quick story. This is a photo of an electrical outlet after an electrician has installed it. Okay. Now, without ever having met the electrician, I can tell you with 100% certainty that the electrician that installed this is a top 1% electrician. Best at what they do. Does anybody know how I know that just by looking at the photo? I'll give you a hint. Huh? I'll give you a hint. If you look at the screw, it gets it away. Yeah. Okay. So, most electricians, when they finish doing the screw, but top 1% electricians, when they finish doing the outlet, they put all the screws exactly together. And what they're doing is they're sending a message to the next electrician, maybe 10 years from now, who has to open it up or something, that everything that they did was perfect. Whereas very clean cabling, it was very well optimized. And it's basically a message that they take a lot of pride in the work and that they're basically setting up something for people that they will never meet. And there's a lot of parallels with engineering as well. A good engineer writes code. A great engineer writes code in a way that developers 10 years from now, who they will never meet, can pick it up and just understand exactly what it's meant. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about how we build in all the data and all the context necessary so that developers, software engineers, don't even work for us yet, will be able to pick up right where we left off. Because everything that we do is constantly being written and rewritten. So I wanted to show you some of the things that we do. And we take a lot of data integrations to the extreme. And I wanted to give you guys some ideas to share with your teams as well. So number one is we connect everything, and I mean everything, into Claude. That is our AI operating system. And I'm going to show you some of the extremes that we're taking. Every single video call that we have, and this is every meeting that we have, even right now, we run it through a video recorder. It never goes into a private repository, and it always gets connected, right? So immediately, any context, any discussion that we've had, and even that tough conversations as well, are automatically connected into our physics. Next, every document that we had is also organized meticulously. This never happens with us because there's a very specific way that we arrange files that are called as public. It's never in a private folder. Next, and here's something really crazy. Every employee in our company actually has access to everybody's emails. People can see each other's salaries. People could see my email conversations with investors. People can see my email negotiations with our customers. But because we make everything so fair and transparent, they also increase velocity as well. When we're building our AI operating system, that has full access. So I think one of the things that we can think about is, does your company have ideas? Do you make all of your emails public to your entire company? Right? So people's heads kind of explode when they hear that, but it speeds things up. It speeds up engineering velocity. So, we also have internal notes as well. We use something called Gorgeous, and what that means is allows everybody to have access, or everybody who sees emails. But what we also do is we also have little internal notes, and that's what that rubber yellow brings. We have internal conversations in the thread that our customer can see, but that we will see, so that it's all that interactive to this. Next. Every single Slack message is also integrated into our operating system as well. We have a very strict rule that conversations should not be DM'd. So even the way now, if you think about DMing people in Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever you use, we don't do that, because if you do that, again, you're using context. Your AI agents that are plugged into all your repositories are just, they won't have access. So we try to make sure that everything is in a public domain. Everybody has access to each other's backlogs as well. So if you think about Jira or Trello or whatever you guys are using, we use Motion, all of this is plugged in. Anybody can go into my backlog and they can see what I'm working on. I can go into anybody else's backlog and they can see what everybody else is working. It's not a secret anybody else is working on. All their notes are in there. Any single person can look at what anybody else is working on. Any agent can make the vocal look and know exactly what's happening. In fact, every single one-on-one that we have, when we have meetings, then we have little one-on-one meetings, we'll even document what we discussed about. True story. I used to run one of the tech teams at AirAsia. Every single one-on-one that I had with the CEO was doctored. You can even to this day, if you have any friends that work at AirAsia, they can actually go on my repository and even see when I was getting yelled at. I think it's still there today. And we also have a very strict rule as well, because Notion is our source of truth. There's no AI stop, because what we don't want doing is you can't have that AI stop upstream. You can have it both. But we try not to have AI stop in Notion because it is a source of truth. Because otherwise this happens. Next. We also do a lot of work with airlines in Indonesia. That means that each airline will typically have maybe 200 to 300 WhatsApp groups with different teams. We actually use this great tool called Periscope. There's a lot of these tools out there, but what this means is these WhatsApp groups are not on my personal phone. What I can do, but I still want to be able to see what's happening. And what I can do is I can actually just connect it into this tool. It doesn't go on my phone because I don't want people paying me 20 frames, okay? But I still have access to it. And I can run prompts on prod, like, hey, show me the most 5 serious issues that happened over the past 24 hours. And it'll basically summarize everything from here. So it's basically the same prompts that you would be running in Claude, except the way that we design it is that as a marker text. And we also spend a lot of time on investing in people. So every single employee that joins our company, their first money is actually spent in a classroom. There's no work. We take everything that we have learned about AI and engineering, in Carbo, and we train you. And I think most companies burn feedbacks, right? Most companies, you get your laptop on the first day, okay, do some work, and then you kind of need to spend 6 months, 18 months trying to figure out how can this work. We don't do that. We try to compress anything into a single 30-minute, 45-minute teaching, and we teach people exactly how to write an E. We teach them exactly how to write a Slack. We don't pass over any detail. It's because we try to get everybody communicating and plugged into our operating system the same. We take it very seriously. And also, I think most companies don't take this seriously. Alex and I will actually block off those 2 to 3 to 4 weeks in our calendar, and we will actually personally teach the classes because it's that important. We know that if we invest 1 month upfront with everybody who joins us on the software engineering side, it pays it back 100 times, 1,000 times over hours of time out there. And just some proof points. I think the key point here is that building an AI operating system in 2026 actually has nothing to do with law. It's actually that how you build new people. Next. And I think hopefully you can start taking some of these ideas and maybe influencing the way that you run your own teams with your partners. But I wanted to actually think about where this is going, right? On one hand, we see a lot of stories like this, where people are saying it's a very tough labor market for engineers. Next, but what I see is something different. what I see is actually a world of potential. In fact, if you look at the average age of a Y Combinator founder, it has gone down. It used to be about 30, now it's about 24. In fact, in Y Combinator now, there's actually per 14-year-old founders. So what we see is young people, young fresh graduates are actually capable of 10 times more than they were 5 years ago. And I wanted to highlight a couple of points. So this is our work with Etihad. You ever go to an Etihad conference and you look at the brief? All the tech was actually built by two 20-years. Two guys on the left are 20 years old. What started with us as interns. Etihad depends on them for their infrastructure. They get to fly for free anytime they're welcome. Next, there's David again. This is then in Bhutan Airlines a couple of weeks ago. And a national airline depends on them to their main research. With Emirates, over 80 companies applied to work with them. It was actually, they ended up picking us. Our median age, our software engineers that were on site building their warehouse mobile, probably 24. So this is something that would have never been possible 5 years or 10 years ago. Asael, the one on the left, during her first 6 months, she actually traveled to every single country. This is her in Africa. This is her in Latin America. This is her on stage in Paris 2 weeks ago, giving a presentation on stage. And again, 24 years old. This type of thing would have never been possible in 5 years, but the amount of acceleration that we see when you invest the right amount of time in people and teaching them these skills is tremendous. Next, this is Jaden. He was probably 21. He went on stage, pitched in front of Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong, came home with a $20,000 check. Okay? And pretty amazing what young people can accomplish there. Linus and Alicia are part of 2122. Entire airline in Kuala Lumpur depended on them for their tour. These two didn't even know anything about it. They joined us maybe 6 months ago, having no experience in airlines. And within 3 to 6 months, they are going into airlines and teaching people that have been in airlines for 10 years. They're teaching them how to do their job. These are things that would never been possibly done. Next. And we got so good at building flight systems that SpaceX actually folks, and they asked us to build their flight system. So, true story, Dami is actually from Bandung. He was just a kid from Bandung, and he was the one that spent a lot of time building the SpaceX system. He flew him out here. He did his U.S. embassy thing, and I think usually they tend to give the Indonesians a tough time, but once they saw space sensor, right? They brought him out to Texas. He'd been working on this project for a while. He had to check and meet everybody that he was helping. But Dami from Bandung is one of only 4 people in the entire world who knows Elon Musk's personal flights. So there's he was just a regular engineer, just like you guys. But an amazing amount of time was put in energy to get these opportunities. Are all next. We won we went to San Francisco. We won the Vercel AI hackathon. Again, we're not some like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google engineers. We're just a bunch of dudes in Southeast Asia. Next. And then a couple months ago, we went to the CEO of Lion Air and Batik Air, and he said, "Hey, we're gonna rip out all of your systems and we're working place it with ours." And he said, "Have you guys ever done anything like this?" I said, "Nope." I said, "Okay." And then we ripped out all of systems, and now 400 passenger aircraft and 1,400 daily flights now run on PAR system. This would have never been possible. He's with a small team or 15 guys in Jakarta that built this. So the velocity that he had 이니게 detail it was exponentially greater than before. Yeah, so I think again, an aspect inspiration. If anybody's interested, you are hiring for an engineering team. Then if you are looking to, if you want to be, you want to do big things here in Jakarta, feel free to drop us a line. But I think the key here is there's an amazing potential that you can have when you incorporate a lot of the days and almost all the things that we are working with you guys on, almost all the things that we put on the slide today are things that we had picked up. Fulk and I, we met at an AI conference. And again, there was 100 people in the room just constant sharing ideas. And almost everything that we do is a result of learning it from somebody else, figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and then adapting it to us. So again, you don't have to be in San Francisco to Kanjulo. You'd be right here in Jakarta. Cool. Drained it. I guess I don't know if anybody has any questions. No? Okay. Yeah. You just shout it out. Sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah. Sorry. The first one is like how is your mental model when building complex in the cargo repo that I saw in the first some of the first slides for the agents. I mean, like designing the structure of the like markdown files, the system, the design of the system files, and also like how do you like validating the content quality, the accuracy, so that the AI or the agent doesn't get hallucinating when like reading the context. And the second one is I saw that in some of the slides that you saw that even email and also like one-on-one Notion personal notes is also like exposed to each other. So I understand that probably the main idea is to like bringing the context to AI as much as possible. But then how are the company or probably you convincing the folks into like instead that oh okay we're okay with like exposing our salaries, exposing our like private emails to each other. Yeah, I think something like that. So I think where the privacy is not that main concern as per my understanding. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's all.
I'll try to answer. I'll try to answer a couple of parts of that. I think your first question was how do we connect these things? Broadly speaking, most of the time when we start doing something, we actually don't know what we're doing, right? So most of our experiments, what we're actually trying to optimize for is frequency of failure. So we don't try to overthink it. We just actually start doing it, right? Because honestly, with a lot of this AI stuff, most of it, there's no playbook for it. So a lot of what we're doing is optimizing for the frequency of failure, and the faster that we're actually doing something wrong, the quicker we actually get to the correct answer. The second one is kind of about the mindset. Again, we look for people that can influence design systems, right? So I think one of the questions that I like to ask during interviews is, give me an example of where you did something where your manager or your CEO or whatever did not agree with you, right? We look for people like that because you have to have very strong opinions about what is actually right, and you're willing to actually like irritate a few people to get there, right? You'll never be able to influence an entire organization if you can't do that. I think in terms of the privacy, I think many people are quite shocked when they hear that anybody can read anybody else's emails, but I would challenge that. If you look at your inbox, if you look at the last 1,000 emails that you have in your inbox, 90% of it is junk. The other 10% of it is just random day-to-day emails in which it actually is better for it to be shared. And really, most of us are software engineers. We're not holding nuclear launch codes. There's, with the exception of an API key, but in very, very, very rare cases, maybe once a year, are you actually dealing with something that is sensitive information, right? Most of the things that you are dealing with are things in which, if you made it public, you're increasing velocity. So obviously, we take safeguards in place. So anytime we're doing something new, we do safely monitoring it. We do put in the proper sandboxes. With certain things like API keys, we do take extremes into plugging it into our security protocols as well. So obviously, like understanding these things is part of it as well. I don't know. Did I answer your question? Okay. All right. I don't know. Any other questions? We'll share the deck. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. You put all the context into the cloud, right? So, how about the bills? I'm kidding. How about the cost? And also, how you manage put all of the context and so optimize, right? So, because I already kind of doing same workflow, but yeah, since the rupiah kind of with the dollar, so I'm concentrating about this, yeah, because my limit always go off when using cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you pull up the Slack channel where Jomar drops the SaaS expenses? So again, it's impossible for me to control the costs by my own. I'm busy, right? And we're actually going to show you how we do it. And this goes back to how increasing transparency and visibility increases velocity, right? So we have, I think it's called like maybe SaaS from Jomar, or no, SaaS? Yeah, okay. So we have an automated report that goes in every single week. They're gonna open up the report. So you can see, like, everybody has access to this. So I don't have time to look at this. I probably rarely look at it, but our team looks at this. So everybody can see what we are spending on this. And we've set up certain like routines, certain workflows, so that everybody can do this. And the beautiful thing about this is that I don't go in and optimize this. I don't have time to do this. But other people will go in and you'll see evidence of this where they say, oh, that looks kind of high. What's going on? And they'll just go and fix it. They don't need me to do it, right? Our team is trained to just go in and fix problems on their own and to identify these things. I think we also have like our AI bill broken down by person as well, right? Yeah, you want to see if we can find that one as well? Right, so you think about, we try to think about how to make, we don't try to hide these things, right? We try to take our costs and expenses and our finances, and we try to make them as visible as possible, as quickly as possible. We even have an automated report that goes in and it shows each person's monthly spend as well, right? Look, we trust our software engineering team with very sensitive information. They hold API keys for airline infrastructure. They hold airline keys for credit card numbers and all these things. So obviously I'm going to trust them with our AI spend, right? So we'll find out in a bit. But we can actually view each person's AI spend. Again, people know that this stuff is public. Even my personal expenses, like when I expense a hotel or I expense this stuff, goes in, and I know that, and I'm setting an example. So if I go and stay at the Ritz-Carlton, everybody's going to see that, right? And I want to set an example for my team as well. Same thing with my AI bill as well. People can see what I'm using my cowork on, and if I'm using it for dumb stuff, or if I'm having an unoptimized prompt, people will see that, right? So I think transparency and visibility on all of your spend, all of your data, it's not a privacy issue. It's a matter of increasing velocity on the engineering side as much as possible. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for sharing that you informed about the privacy about your data, especially the AI or the agent. And I have a spare question. Actually, this is about a bit technical. I see that your knowledge all is stored inside your GitHub repository using the Markdown. And I see that it's really about the cargo review. And is it that GitHub repository is shared to the public or your engineer? Plus that your knowledge actually it will get the data, especially from your client. And is it like good to give our client information? Because I think that the cargo will it will be different, like for like Etihad or Air Asia or something like that. Do you like include all of the data, including your customer in that agent knowledge, or just this is only general or for the review? And then I see that is there's an MCP that you make like a custom connectors. Is it public or can I access it or just only for the engineer to see? Because yeah, if you talk about like the public, I just understand that it is public that we can access, or it just your engineer thing only.
So things, obviously, stuff like our GitHub repository is public internally. Obviously, you can't go in and do it. And obviously things like credit card data, personal information, obviously that's an additional layer of security. So we definitely don't share things externally, but we do try to make sure things are accessible to the public. So even a demo of our software, you can actually go on our website and play it, and our competitors probably go on it all the time. But yeah, so I think maybe to answer your question, we don't, definitely our source code we don't expose publicly. Yeah. But we do actually make a couple of templates on like my V0 page as community templates that are used pretty actively.
And how often you update the knowledge of this?
Well, every day, but even still not as much as we should.
Is it automatically for the agent from the agent to push or manually?
I think we're doing it manually, right?
Yes. Usually we have somebody curate the data before we put it in. We want stuff to be in there to be correct.
Yeah, I'm a big belief on. I actually do a lot of stuff manually without AI, way more than like you would think, right? So, yeah. Any other questions? No. Okay. Cool. All right, Philip.
There's two questions here.
Question maybe ya.
Chill lah, biar mereka manage the timeline.
Hey, firstly, I want to thank you, Jeff, for sharing this very, very inspiring usage of AI. And personally, I am not that technical in engineering, but I mostly do marketing works. But I'm trying to learn a little bit engineering. The first thing I want to ask about you, you're a founder, obviously, and you're very busy, right? And how do you keep your second brain? Do everyone have like an integrated second brain, or you have your own second brain, like using Notion or other apps? And my second question is, how do you use AI when you want to ship something in your product? I think that's it.
Okay, I think your first question was how do you stay on top of all the stuff, right? I'm pretty overwhelmed every day. There's more stuff to experiment with than I have time, and I don't worry too much about falling behind because every 6 months our company actually has a reset where we do a full company-wide onboarding. So during that time, those are 3 weeks where like even I am both teaching and learning. And the way I like to phrase it is that anything that you learn, it takes 1% of the time to teach it to someone else, right? So if you think about, I don't know, let's say you're really good at, I don't know, React, right? And you've been doing it for like 5 years. for you to sit down and teach it to someone else would probably only take you about a month, right? And the reason is because a lot of your trial and error when you're teaching and when you're learning something is that 90% of it is like dead ends. You're basically learning a lot of the wrong things or you're relearning things to the point where if you spend time doing something, when you teach it to someone, you're only teaching them the correct part. They get to skip ahead to the correct answer. So everybody in our company is actually doing a lot of teaching, and that is what allows me to kind of reset. So I fall behind, everybody else is running circles around me, and then we do our reset, or we're back in the classroom, and suddenly everybody's on par again. I think your second question is about where we use it. Honestly, it differs for everybody. Alex uses paper a lot, he uses it on design, he does it on his QA stuff. I still like doing a lot of stuff manually, right? I think there's still a lot of things that I like doing manually, there's a lot of things I like automating. I think in general, with a lot of our team, the better that they are at something, the more likely they are to do it manually. If they're newer to something, they usually do a lot of AI as well. So it's kind of different for everybody on our team. Okay, cool. All right, let's give a round of applause for our next speaker.